Depressive seduction. That is the goal. I want all of our audience to walk away from watching the If We Were Villains limited series to feel like they have an emotional hangover, right? But at the same time, be so infatuated, so obsessed with these characters and the world and the moodiness that they sink into that pit of despair eagerly, like a warm velvet blanket, right? It's a mess. The story's chaotic and crazy and toxic, but I want it to feel seductive, to feel moody, to feel so specific in that time and place that even if our viewers are not artistic themselves, have no interest in Shakespeare, or have never been in a conservatory environment themselves before, they're gonna walk away feeling like they lived it with our characters, right? Oh, hi. Yes, come on in, take a seat. No, you're not too late, we just started. I'm Alison Haselden. I am your showrunner for the If We Were Villains TV adaptation for the limited series. I cannot tell you how excited I am to be spearheading this project. This has been one of my favorite books I've read in the past few years. I connected with it so deeply on a personal level, but also as an artist. And from the moment I was reading it, as I was reading it, I saw this on the screen. I saw it clear as day. And I think it is a beautiful piece. It's going to touch a lot of people. It's going to move a lot of people. It's going to make people think. And I think it's a really cool way to introduce Shakespeare to the modern world, to the new generation, right? So thank you all for being here with me. I appreciate each and every one of you. I'm excited to get to know you and get to work with you. And as always, I am open to comments, to questions, to ideas. Please feel free to share. If you're watching the video recap of this, please feel free to comment below. That's the best way for me to connect with you. Okay, shall we dive in even more? Okay, let's talk about comps to help everyone be on the same page. Aesthetically, think Luca Guadagnino, right? I love the way he creates this dreamy sort of quality in a lot of his films, and I love the tension he creates, and I love how much care he puts into his aesthetics as Easter eggs and breadcrumbs and mirrors of the story and the character's emotional experience. So I am very much inspired by his work in that regard. But tonally, overall, and some of our more specific elements that we're taking inspiration from for camera and things like that will be Normal People, The Dead Poets Society, and A Good Person. All of these have that kind of sad girl, sad boy energy to them. There's this contrast, this beautiful contrast between the romantic surrealism, the dreamy qualities, right? That is then yo-yoed between really brutally raw and vulnerable moments, right? Like showing the harsh realities of relationships and how sometimes things just don't work out, right? So we're kind of yo-yoing between those two energies, which, I mean, Normal People does this brilliantly. I think A Good Person does this as well. And the Dead Poet Society obviously has that, boarding school, conservatory, collegiate environment with all these secrets and layers underneath. And of course that nod to inspiration from the classics, poetry, or in this case, Shakespeare. Obviously there's so many little tidbits of takeaways and lessons and messages that the author M.L. Rio intended for this, but one of the biggest threads for me that I think is really important for each and every one of us to keep in mind is the study of these characters as artists, and the sense that, artists, we walk on this tightrope of magic, right? There's light on one side and there's dark on the other. And we walk that line, every single one of us. And the scary thing is that we can slip from one side to the other and not even blink. I think it can happen so quickly, and we're ebbing and flowing, and each moment we can dip and sway from one side to the other. And we see in this story some of our characters struggling with that walk and others who fall from the tightrope, right? Into one side or the other. And that is kind of my visual through line that I've been carrying as I've been doing this prep. And you know, the other image I've been keeping with me is that we can be strong and brave and powerful when we're on stage, when we're in character and on the stage with our costume, with our makeup, with the stage lights. That can be a moment of extreme control and power and freedom. And then hours later, moments later, the second we leave the stage and go into the wings, we can find ourselves completely unraveled, completely broken down, completely bare. You know, sometimes we're more bare off stage than we are on stage, and we can find ourselves alone with our demons in crowded rooms. And even if it's not the literal stage, right? Like we see the idea of a stage very literally in If We Were Villains, as well as figuratively, just like on the stage of various stages of our life. And so I think those are the images I'm keeping with me, right? As kind of a compass for this project. This is, at the end of the day, like this is a coming of age story, right? The mixed up feelings of discovering oneself, discovering love, discovering each other. It's messy and chaotic. It's those early 20s years that I love working with so much. And storytelling, and so I want there to be that youthful restlessness, that youthful invincibility that is then has to be reckoned with, right? Is a huge part of this. So I want it to feel like we have our head out the window of a car and the wind is streaming through our hair, and that feeling I want running through some of these high moments, and then the contrast of like the concave of the dark moments. So that's my vibe, that's my tone that we're working with, and it's just gonna be scrumptious. So for locations, obviously we're leaning into the dark academia vibe. I think it would be lovely if we can find a structure almost like Illinois was inspired by Oxford and wanted to like have their own. So yeah, like plucked out of Oxford, plucked out of Edinburgh, and planted in the middle of America. That's how I want it to feel. And then obviously that, the college bar vibes, right? Very, very grounded, very real, very shabby, nothing too glossy, right? Even though it's a castle vibe, I want it to feel very lived in. Casting, where are we? Yes. So as you know, I mean, we've worked together before. I want to cast early because I want there to be enough time for very thorough chemistry reads for our main group. They have to be tight. They have to feel really natural. They have to feel comfortable and very connected deeply. So I want a lot of chemistry between the main cast of our main students. So lots of time for chemistry reads, and remember, we also are gonna have them in rehearsals. So because we're doing a lot of long takes here, so much of it will have to be rehearsed in advance, so that everyone kind of knows what they're doing. So I'm serious about that. Like, we need to have the rehearsal time, and I'm not pushing back the production time. So just make sure that we keep that in mind. Also, so that everyone knows, we're trying to go with as many new faces as possible, especially for our young cast. I want as many fresh faces. Experience, fine, but like no big names, no big faces, right? If we're gonna have a name in the main cast, in the main group of students, it could be Richard. I'm okay with that. And I'm happy to have names and recognizable faces in with our adult cast, right? With Frederick and Gwendolyn and Detective Colburn. Knock yourself out with those. Let's get some like fabulous, juicy, fun names in there. But everyone else I want to be fresh, because I don't think that this works as well if our audience is thinking of where they saw the actor before. Okay, let's talk music. So I do have a Spotify playlist for everyone that is kind of to set the tone and the mood. I'm gonna be playing this at base camp in the mornings, just like an hour as we're getting set up, as cast is arriving, just to sync us all into this juicy, gorgeous mood. I'm gonna send it to all of you, but it's songs like Youth by Daughter. There's a fabulous Irish band called Kingfisher, and there's a few songs from them. Killa and Diamonds and Roses. as well as favorites like Novo Amor, Amber Run, Moving Mountains, Suf John Stevens, you know, just all of this music that kind of helps set the tone. It's going to sink us all into that vibe. And hopefully we can get some of these for the actual final cut. We'll see what our music supervisor can cook up for us. But this is kind of what we're working off of as our foundation. And I think it's just, I love music. Music helps me sink into the story in 2 seconds. And I think having a unified sort of musical tone underneath all this work that we're gonna be doing is gonna be really helpful. Okay, are we ready to get into some of our technical items? Because this, I think, is going to be really important for us to really achieve what I'm going for with this project. So we're going to talk a little bit about lighting and a little bit about camera. So I want a lot of this to be shot in close-ups or extreme close-ups, and with very specifically shallow depths of field, right? So for anyone who doesn't know what that is, we're really focusing on the character or the object in frame and blurring heavily everything in the background. This just really helps the viewer feel like they're in the head of the characters and that they're really in the world, immersed in the world with them. So obviously not everything's going to be that, but a lot of these intimate moments, a lot of these personal exchanges are going to be shot in that way to help make it feel intimate, make it feel vulnerable, help us notice all of the little details, the way that hair is moving, the way that eyelashes are fluttering, the way that our actors are breathing, the little tiny details. That is what we want to see. It just helps it feel so immersive and so intimate, and that is what we need here. And in addition to that, lighting is going to be so important to me. I really want there to be the lighting to help us tell our story, right? So I want so much to feel soft and glowy in the way that we're lighting, right? So I want lots of candles. I want diffused, warm lamplight or natural sunrise or sunset light. I think this is gonna add to that glow, add to that aesthetic, add to the dreamy qualities in the moments that we need that. So like the glowy haze basically represents that interpersonal messiness, the dream world, where we're almost like what's real and what isn't. And then there's gonna be a really stark contrast with stage lighting, right? The harsh spotlights of the stage lights, the lights in your eyes that are blinding you. That is going to be almost, I want it to feel like such a contrast, because so much of the truth comes out when our actors are on stage or in rehearsal or in the middle of performances, right? And I think the lighting is gonna help us tell that story really well. A few other camera things that I wanna talk about. So I do think that there's gonna be lots of hand cam, POV shots when we are in the middle of performances, right? Especially, you know, when we're in the woods and in the ballroom, when they're doing the immersive kind of pop-up performances that they haven't rehearsed. I think having hand cam elements in there is gonna make it, again, just feel very immersive for the audience, like they too have just been given their characters' lines and don't know who is gonna be who when they arrive, right? And we're kind of sorting through the crowd. We're in the woods, we're in the water, we are in the crowded ballroom, right? And figuring it out along with our cast. And I also want to have hand cams for the cast, right? I'd love us to have some days where we're giving them old home video cameras from the 90s and kind of showing, to build some of that library of like their friendship and the dynamics. I think having some moments we can intersperse of it feeling like it's the friend group's home videos, right? It's gonna be really cool. And again, very immersive and very emotional. And it's gonna help us kind of like hint at some of these relationship dynamics that are hidden under the surface, right? So I think that's gonna be very fun. And also I want some steady cam moments, right? I think there's some really brutally honest moments that the cast has in rehearsal and in class with their professors. And I think, you know, I'm seeing this image of them standing in a circle or sitting in a circle and having Steadicam move around them as they're doing these acting exercises, either from within the circle in a turn or outside the circle, kind of tracking them, I think can be really cool and kind of show some of those sequences of like the brutality and like the competitiveness and the acting conservatories are brutal, and I think a lot of people watching this don't know that. So that I think those moments, the Steadicam will really help with that, to kind of bring that into reality for a lot of our viewers. Like I said before, we're gonna be doing a lot of long takes, right? This is in part because we have these actual stage productions going on, and also because I want there to be room for our actors to breathe in the work, right? To have opportunities for spontaneous little moments of improv or little personal touches that are just gonna organically come through. That again is gonna help contribute to our goal of really authentic, grounded, and intimate connections and experiences for our viewers. Okay, my loves, that is all I have for you today. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening and for being present with me. And thank you for all of the amazing work that I know is to come from each and every one of you. I cannot wait for us to get started. I cannot wait for us to cast our amazing actors. And I'm excited to hear more from you. Like I said, if you have any thoughts of ideas that you'd like to share about the limited series adaptation of If We Were Villains, based on the book by M.L. Rio, please feel free to comment below. I would love to hear from you and chat. Like I said, this has been one of my favorite books I've read. I know I will do my very best to be a good steward of the work, and I am excited to see what happens next. Cheers.